Welcome to Table Talk here at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world. 12 years strong. We got a great discussion coming your way this week on Table Talk, and we've got a fantastic guest with us. Been a little while since he has been on, but it's great to have him. He is coming to us from great SB Nation site, Turf Showtimes. That's right, turfshowtimes.com. He covers the Los Angeles Rams there. We've got our good friend, Blaine Girsak. Blaine, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Jeff. Like you said, got a lot to talk about. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are Eagles fans, so the Rams and Eagles are two of the top teams in the NFC, and it's finally got some preseason football last weekend. So the season's starting to ramp up.
Absolutely. Look, we got a bunch of storylines that we want to dive into, and I want to first get into a storyline that you're obviously following closely as someone who covers the Los Angeles Rams, Blaine. As we know, reports came out last week about Matthew Stafford dealing with an aggravated disc, and he's received some epidurals to deal with that. He's week to week here, but he is slated to start week one. You mentioned the fact that the Rams are going to be one of those teams, along with the Eagles, that is going to be very competitive in the NFC this coming season. So I don't know how you're looking at it, Blaine, but with me, like, aside from Matt Stafford and his age, I really think that the Rams' offensive line is going to need to play lights out football this season in pass protection if they're going to have a successful season, and if Matt Stafford is going to have a successful season leading this offense. I'm wondering, like, what are your thoughts about this storyline and what this all means for the Rams here? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, you never want to hear that your 37-year-old starting quarterback has a back injury.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the Rams are always pretty vague when it comes to injuries. I mean, you go back to a couple of years ago, he had the elbow thing, and all offseason it was, he's fine. And then we get to March, and Sean McVay says, people forget how big of a deal it was. It's like you didn't make it a big deal at the time, so no,
right.
we didn't know how big of a deal that was. But I think this is one of those things where it's like we don't know what we don't know, and we won't know until, I guess, he takes the field on week one on how he looks. He was supposed to start kind of practicing today, but he was still in street clothes. So the goal is for him to be ready for week one. Per the team, it kind of sounds like this was kind of always kind of part of the plan in terms of maintenance, but it's kind of, I think, one of those things where, like, you can't completely discredit it. It's not nothing, but it's also probably it's not. I don't want to make too big of a deal out of it, but I don't want to underplay it either.
Right. Well, I think an important aspect of this, Blaine, and what I've been thinking about too, is because I love to see competitive football. You know, of course, the Eagles being the defending Super Bowl champions, of course, I'm hoping they get back there. But I know that the Rams are going to be one of those teams slated to really compete, like I mentioned, in the NFC. If Matt Stafford does take a tough hit, if he takes a tough sack, something like that may keep him out, what does that backup quarterback situation really look like? And can this Rams offense depend on backups and depth to really get them to that next level?
Yeah, I mean, that is the good thing. I mean, you go back to 2022, and Stafford did miss time, and then they're relying on guys like John Wolford and Bryce Perkins as a backup, and it's completely different this time around. They have Jimmy Garoppolo, who, he obviously had a lot of success in San Francisco with the 49ers. It's obviously been a couple of years removed from that, obviously, but I think he's a guy that this coaching staff really trusts to run the offense if needed. I don't think he's someone that they want necessarily being the quarterback over 17 games, but like you said, Stafford could be one hit away from missing a couple of weeks. But I do think if it were to come to that, Garoppolo is someone that they would expect and could trust to execute the offense in a way that they would like to.
Yeah. I want to now get into a specific team over here in the NFC East. And I say over here because I've hated this team ever since I was a child. And that team is the Dallas Cowboys. Man, Blaine, the Cowboys always seem to be dealing with some sort of adverse contract situation. It never ceases to amaze me. Now, Michael Parsons has requested a trade. As we all know, it's a huge storyline heading into this NFL season. And as we are in the midst of training camp, over the past decade, how this organization has been run, it is, in my eyes, pretty surprising. Then again, maybe I shouldn't be surprised given who's at the helm here. I'll leave it at that. But I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on the Micah Parsons trade request, and also how the Cowboys seem to be making just poor decision after poor decision these days as it pertains to their front office management. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Jerry Jones kind of seems to be leaning into the any publicity is good
Yeah,
publicity
right.
mantra. But I don't necessarily think not paying your best players is the publicity you want.
Right.
And to be honest, it's kind of cost them a lot of money. They kind of waited on the Dak deal, and they ended up, I think, paying him probably $5 to $7 million
Yeah.
than they would have had they just paid him immediately. I mean, I think you can say the same for, they waited on CD Lamb, and then a bunch of wide receivers got paid, and they ended up having to pay him
Yep.
probably $5 million or so more than they would have had to. And then they're waiting here on Micah Parsons, and TJ Watt just got an extension, so
Right.
Micah Parsons' deal just went up. Yeah, it's a weird way to run the team. I think Cowboys fans are kind of sick of Jerry Jones, and kind of understand that this team probably isn't going anywhere, and with him calling the shots, and they're probably right in that thinking. I kind of still think Micah gets something done with the Cowboys, but
Okay.
it is just kind of with what Jerry Jones has said, the back and forth. I think there is definitely a little bit of tension there, but I think money cures everything. So
Absolutely. It does. And, I got to tell you, as an Eagles fan, I love the way the Cowboys organization is being run right now. Fantastic. Keep up the great work, Jerry Jones. That's what I say. Keep up the great work. So as we're moving along here, Blaine, and before we get to our first break here, I want to get your thoughts on a particular storyline that I'm going to find absolutely fascinating this season, and I hope it turns out to be fascinating. And that is one Travis Hunter. I feel like this storyline down in Jacksonville is either going to just be a boom or bust type of storyline. And given that we're talking about the Jaguars here, I mean, I'm leaning towards the bust side of things, even though I want it to be an awesome storyline. I really want to see how this particular player in Travis Hunter, how he is going to potentially handle playing the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball throughout the game, what that means for his, whether it's physical well-being, mental well-being, and, this new type of player that we see in the NFL here. But then again, I'm not sure this is going to hold up too well in the NFL. I'm not sure his style of play, offensive and defensively, if that's where they want to do, or if that's where they want to put him. I'm not sure if it's going to hold up. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this particular storyline?
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how it works out. We've never seen a player like this.
Yeah.
In the NFL anyway. I mean, you have Shohei Ohtani obviously in baseball, but in terms of the NFL, we've never seen a player consistently play both sides of the ball. And like you said, when it comes to the Jaguars, there isn't a lot of optimism in something
Right.
like this working out. But I do think, like, it's just like from a front office perspective, they get they hire James Gladstone. He's a former guy from the Rams front office,
Right.
and so I really like that. Liam Cohen, I think, is one of the brighter offensive minds in the NFL. So maybe he's able to get the most out of Trevor Lawrence again, get the most out of a guy like Travis Hunter, who's just insanely talented. How it works out, I kind of think he plays majority offense, and maybe they have like some sub packages for him on defense. I don't know if I don't know if he'll be full time on both sides. But yeah, it kind of sounds like too when he was drafted that he was fine playing full time on both sides. But again, the NFL is a different beast. It's more physical. Guys take more hits. I think his frame is a little smaller, so they'll definitely want to protect him a little bit. But yeah, no, it'll definitely be interesting, and something everybody will be watching this season.
Absolutely. It's going to be fascinating to watch. And again, folks, we are talking to Blaine Girsak from the turfshowtimes.com, great SB Nation site. Blaine, let everybody know where they can find you out there on the interwebs if they want to follow what you and your colleagues are doing out there. Let everybody know.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Twitter at bgrisaktst. Got a lot of content going there always, and then you can read all my work over at turfshowtimes.com.
All right. If you are new to listening to the PST podcast show or watching here on YouTube, like and subscribe to the podcast here on YouTube. And we also have our social media sites as well. We are on Instagram, Twitter/X. You can follow me over on TikTok at Mr. Jeff Warren. I'm also over at Blue Sky at Jeff Warren. You can search me out there. I'm on Threads, like our Facebook page as well. Great discussion so far, but we got a lot of great topics to get into when we get back from our break. Stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. And again, we are with Blaine Girsak from turfshowtimes.com. He covers the Los Angeles Rams. And as we're moving along with the show here and this discussion about this upcoming NFL season, Blaine, I really feel like the Chicago Bears are going to make some sort of headway this year in the NFC North. Now, how much headway, I'm not too sure. As we all know, they hired Ben Johnson. He runs a very creative offense. And I guess the question really is, can this new coaching leadership and regime really unlock the talent that Caleb Williams may actually have within him? What are your thoughts about the Bears this coming season and this particular storyline? I think it's interesting.
Oh, it's definitely interesting, and I think similarly to the Jaguars, when you talk about the Chicago Bears, they don't really have a long history of making things work, let alone
Right.
let alone at the quarterback position. So,
Right.
yeah, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see it. Ben Johnson, I think, was a home run hire. He was, I think, one of the better offensive minds in the NFL, if not the top offensive mind the last couple of years. Kind of got the most out of Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions. Just like I said, I think he's been one of the more creative offensive minds in the NFL, and they have a lot of offensive playmakers. I mean, you look at Caleb Williams is obviously very 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 creative in the things that he can do, kind of extending plays with his legs and whatnot. And then they draft Colston Loveland out of Michigan in the first round. They have Roma Dunze who they drafted last year. They also drafted Luther Burden, who was one of the more, I think, just explosive explosive wide receivers in the draft. So that offense certainly has the potential to work. It has the pieces. Now whether or not it does work, I think we'll be seen. You always, I think we see those really really top offensive coordinators or coordinators in general that kind of are better coordinators than they are coaches. And I think we're going to find out where Ben Johnson kind of fits in that this year. But like I said, he has the pieces to make it work.
I think it really depends on that relationship between Caleb Williams and between Ben Johnson and the coaching staff too. Relationships are so very important in terms of how that manifests than what we see on the field as well. I mean, we see it time and time again. If you're not going to have a great relationship with your coaches, you're not going to be able to do that much out on the field. So I think that's a critical part of this Bears team and Caleb Williams in terms of his development. But as we're moving along here, I feel like the quarterback hierarchy is in flux in the AFC. And I'm talking about with both Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen as they try to get their respective offenses and teams to the Super Bowl to really help cement their legacies here, Blaine. Look, Lamar Jackson, his numbers usually dip come January, come the postseason. We have seen his numbers dip time and time again. And Josh Allen, we know that narrative. He just can't get past the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm wondering, which quarterback do you think really has the better chance to push through and to potentially get to the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, no, that's a very tough question because I think I mean these were the two top quarterbacks in the MVP discussion last year.
Yep.
They're both insanely talented, and like you said, that they've both been right on the cusp. I think you just kind of look at both teams though, and I kind of think it's tough because like you said, Lamar's numbers have kind of dipped in January. He did play really well last year in the playoff loss, but just kind of came up short. But I do think that Ravens team is a lot more complete than I think
the Bills are.
Than the Bills. They have so many more offensive weapons. I think Josh Allen's top target is going to be Josh Palmer, who was kind of more of a role player with the Chargers the last couple of years. And the Bills are still kind of expecting Josh Allen to be the Superman of their offense, and he can do that. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of Dan Marino back in the 90s, where you have this insanely talented quarterback, but you never really kind of give him the defense or the playmakers around him that are going to get him over the top. And I think Lamar he has the defense, he has the head coach that has done it before. So I think he has the pieces around him to to take that next step. And as much as we like to kind of pin quarterbacks against each other, at the end of the day, it is a
Yeah.
team. It is a team sport, and situation matters. And I kind of like, I think Lamar's situation just a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when it comes to the running back situation too, you look at James Cook up in Buffalo, you look at Travis Henry in Baltimore, and I think with Travis Henry, why did I just say Travis Henry? It's not Travis Henry. Dear heavens, everybody, if you see me out in public, you should slap me in the face for that one. We know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Dear heavens, I'm just thinking the running game in Baltimore, it's always an emphasis. It's always significant. It's always part of the equation for their success from season after season, because very rarely do you see this Ravens team faltering in terms of the running game. I think their running game is going to be stellar, and I think that's really going to help propel them too, if not Lamar Jackson and his rushing capabilities too. So anyway, buddy, before I let you go, I really wanted to dive into some possible surprises that we may see this coming season in both the AFC and both the NFC as well. So I guess two-part question. Let's start with the AFC. Who do you think is the team in the AFC this coming season you think is going to surprise everyone? Who's that?
So I'm kind of between two, and I'll just give both a shout out because I think both teams are going to surprise in different ways. I think that the Denver Broncos are our team that are going to surprise people.
I agree with you.
I think Bo Nix kind of takes that next step and takes more, I think, accountability in that Sean Payton offense. I think Sean Payton supposed to trust him a little bit more. They have an incredible offensive line, which is going to help Bo Nix out. Defensively, they have Patrick Surtain, obviously, in the secondary. It's one of the better defenses in the NFL. So, I think they could be a true contender in the AFC that a lot of people are kind of, I don't think, looking at right now. And my other team is also comes from the AFC West, and that's the Las Vegas Raiders. I think.
Okay.
I don't know if I have the have the guts to put them in the playoffs, but I really like the things that they've done. You bring in Pete Carroll, who's kind of gonna, I think, when it comes to Raiders, I think they just kind of needed an adult in the room at the head coach spot, and Pete Carroll gives them that. They get Geno Smith, who's going to give them, I think, he may not have a lot of upside, but he kind of gives you a baseline, a high floor at the quarterback position. They have Brock Bowers, obviously. They drafted GNT from Boise State. I think that's gonna be one of the more fun offenses in the NFL. And Pete Carroll's specialty is defense. So if he can just kind of make that defense average, I think they could be pretty fun to watch. And then on the NFC, I'm gonna say the team the two teams that I watch, I think the Arizona Cardinals could be, I think, a lot better than people expect. I really like what they did in the draft, and they've kind of been right there. They were right there last year, and I think just this year they'll get more consistency over the course of the season. And it could be a surprise, and then I think a disappointment in the NFC could be the Detroit Lions. I think they lose Ben Johnson, they lose Aaron Glenn, Jared Goff loses his center in Frank Reich to retirement. So I think that's a lot of change. That's a lot of changes, and they might start a little slower than some are expecting.
Absolutely. Boy, what a great conversation. And just to let folks know what Blaine was talking about with the Broncos and the Raiders, if you head back in the podcast feed, or if you're here on YouTube, you can go back with our videos, our Opposition Territory podcast. We covered the Raiders and the Broncos within this past month. Those are great conversations with our guests that we had at that time. But folks, he is Blaine Girsak from turfshowtimes.com over at SB Nation. Blaine, buddy, it was great talking with you. Thanks so much for jumping on, and hope that we'll be able to talk at some point down the road, my friend.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Jeff. It was great to connect again.